This episode of Bulletproof Cash Flow is brought to you by Realty Dynamics. Learn how people like you can build substantial passive income while creating wealth for the long term through real estate investing. Visit rdyne.com. That's RDYNE.com.
Because you never get rid of all of your negative thoughts or all of your limiting beliefs. You don't get rid of them. You just learn how to manage them. You learn how to push forward despite maybe the thought that you have in your mind, because you realize that the thought is just a thought. It's nothing more than that. Like, you give power to your thought, right? I can look at the sky right now and say the sky is black, but it's not as blue. But my thought is that it's black, right? So I'm deciding if I'm going to give validation and power to whether or not that's true. And we do the same thing with ourselves every single day.
Working because you want to, not because you have to, is financial freedom. And we want to help you create that. Welcome to the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. We're going to teach you how to achieve lifetime financial freedom through real estate investment. Your host is a multifamily syndicator and property developer. He's done deals reaching into the hundreds of millions of dollars. You'll hear from experts in all aspects of real estate investment, finance, development, and management. Everything you need is right here. This is the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. And this is your host, Augustino Pintus.
Hey everyone, it's Augustino. A large part of success as a capital raiser and a real estate entrepreneur is building a confidence and resolve for success. Now, today's guest is very familiar, as she is both a college professor and a former top executive for an education corporation. And she has a very intimate understanding of how education, empowerment, and leadership fuse together for massive transformation. Now, she is a two-time TED speaker, a #1 best-selling author, and a leadership career and confidence coach. Additionally, she has spoken on numerous platforms alongside greats such as Tony Robbins, Les Brown, and Marie Forleo. She is the founder of Rise Up For You and has coached and mentored over 50,000 individuals around the world on self-empowerment and building confidence for success. With that, I'd like to welcome Netta to the show. Netta, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. Looking forward to sharing.
Yes. I've been looking forward to this for a while. Now, guys, if you like what Netta has to say, you can reach her via her contact page at riseupforyou.com. We'll include a link in the description. Okay. Now, to go ahead and tell listeners about your journey. How'd you get started?
Yeah, super interesting. Thank you so much. So I actually started as a performer, believe it or not. So my first career, I toured the world internationally as a singer and a dancer. And I had the great honor of walking around, going to Russia, Japan, all over the world, and just basically empower through the tool of music. And, you know, what's really interesting is that when I was a performer, I realized very quickly that your technique and your knowledge, and I know we talked about this off air a little bit, was just not enough. And I started to foster like this entrepreneur mindset at a younger age, because I realized very quickly, you know, walking into a room as a performer with 500, 1,000 people that could all sing and dance, that all have basically the same credentials, but how do I stand out and get the deal? How do I stand out and make the cut as a performer or get casted in the show? And every single time I walked into a room, I was in this organization for years, and I was always the #1 performer. I always got the center stage spot. I always got what they call the diva spotlight, but I was never, ever the best singer, ever. There was always a number of people that can sing me out of the water. But because I understood this game of, I got to show something different beyond my singing capabilities because we all sound the same, or my dancing capability because we all have the same technique. How am I going to stand out? I always got that center stage spot. Traveled the world for years. And after that, I actually became an executive of an education corporation. So I was 27 years old. I had 200 people under me. And I saw the exact same challenge happening. So professionals that had PhDs, master's degrees, all the certificates in the world were getting in the way of their own success. They had a ton of knowledge, but it just wasn't enough for them to move forward in their career and really build a life that they were proud of. They got stuck in their head. They didn't take action. They struggled with perfectionist mindset. And I'm over here, you know, young 27-year-old thinking like, what's happening right now? And why is this happening? So again, I saw that same challenge happening. Fast forward a couple years, you know, I've always had this, I guess, entrepreneur mindset. And I wanted a different life with freedom, flexibility, and growth. And I wanted more autonomy over my life and what I was building. And I'll be transparent and say that, I didn't just wake up one morning and do it. I actually, God kind of gave me a really strong kick in the butt that made me have this realization. So when I was 27, I lost my dad. He had 6 heart attacks. He wasn't a heavy guy, but he just had a lot of stress. He was an immigrant that came to America to build a life for his family. And he died at 62. And I remember thinking at 62, like, is this what life's all about? Like, you struggle and you grind every day trying to make money, but you never really reach financial stability and success and freedom. And then he passed at 62. And then at 30, my mom was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and she passed within 7 months. And she also died at 63. And I remember at 63, like, standing in her closet. I'm the only girl in the family. I inherited all of her clothes, all of her Louis Vuitton bags, all this stuff. And I'm thinking, what does it mean to build a life that you're proud of? What does it mean to build a thriving life with freedom and flexibility that just feels great? Because both of my parents worked their ass off and they never really made it to retirement or to financial freedom or to that stage where they just felt like they could really enjoy everything that they had. And so my company was built in that closet. I started building it when my mom was passing away, when we knew that she wasn't going to make it. I built my company out of a hospital. I took showers at the 24-Hour Fitness, ran back to the hospital, opened up the laptop, and built my company, Rise Up For You. And today we're in over 50 countries. And I have an amazing team throughout North America. And we work with everything from the entrepreneur to a corporation like LA Fitness or Google on these skills that really make us who we are today. And that's the human skills, emotional intelligence, confidence, all the things that you're typically not taught in a school system or when you get a degree, but that are actually very pivotal to anyone's success. And today as an entrepreneur, I see it every single day, even working with other entrepreneurs. I mean, I'm sure you've seen it too. Maybe people that you got into the game with, right? And now 5-10 years later, they're no longer there. They had the starting power, but they didn't have the staying power, which was all these skills that you cannot build through a degree that actually make you and help you achieve the success you want.
Yep. I think a big part of it is that, in my case anyway, what I learned in terms of running a business, I learned in corporate over the span of over 30 years, right? So that's one way to do it, certainly, right? You could do that, or you can shortcut it and actually get the training ahead of time because, as a C-level guy, former C-level guy that used to run large enterprise technology and had to manage budgets and had to navigate sometimes some very wild personalities. We talked a little bit about one of those in the green room. We won't get into it now, but being able to navigate all that is somewhat of a challenge sometimes. And when you're doing deals as an entrepreneur, you're gonna encounter many tough people, tough deals. Having that EQ, that emotional quotient, the emotional intelligence, and also the confidence of, I guess, when you're during a negotiation, like to push through that. So, I mean, how do you create that bulletproof confidence? How do you create that? Hey, Augustino here, and I would love to connect directly with you. Text the word books to 844-428-1344 to receive weekly book recommendations from me.
Yeah, it's not easy, honestly. And I get kind of frustrated, I think, with some of the narrative that's out there in the world today that's like, just wake up and be motivated. We've all kind of heard that. And it doesn't really work that way.
No, it does not.
This is a skill. Just like we open a book and, we listen to a podcast when it comes to entrepreneurship and real estate investing, you got to do the same thing for these skills. And actually 80% of an individual's success is determined by their confidence and their emotional intelligence. And research shows that 75% of individuals derail their career because they don't have these skills, right? So, I mean, we saw this a couple months ago on the Oscars, right? With the actor that 1 second of poor self-management kind of, destroyed their reputation. And so it's not an overnight thing. It does take time. But my blueprint that I share is called the 4 Bs. right? It's the 4 B's to breaking these beliefs that are hindering your success, which most people don't realize they have. If I were to go to somebody that's I can see sabotaging themselves and say it's a self-confidence thing, they would say, I have confidence. No, it's not. They don't realize that subconsciously there's these things that are getting in their way that are holding them back from behaving, taking action, and showing up. So when someone doesn't take action, and we know that only 1/3% of the population, 1/3% actually accomplish their goals, right? It's because the other 70% of the individuals, there's resistance there. There's a reason why they don't take action, right? And usually when there's resistance, there's a belief or a thought that is getting in the way of them moving forward, right? So I break down the 4 B's. The first is just understanding what the belief is. That's the first B. So what belief is getting in your way? And we have thousands of beliefs, right? So you're going to do this multiple times. So it might be that you're working with somebody to close a deal, and maybe there's a belief that they don't respect you. Let's say because you're a woman, right? I'm just going to throw that out there because I'm a woman. And I know there's a lot of real estate agents that are women that struggle with this sometimes, right? So that's a belief, right? Maybe they didn't say it, but maybe that's something that's in your head that's like, oh, they're not going to respect me, or I'm not going to close this deal because they see me in a certain way, right? That's a belief. Write that down. The second B is the backstory. So what's the backstory of that belief? Meaning, where does it come from? Because every belief that we have comes from somewhere. It could come from family, it can come from childhood. It could come from a previous deal that maybe like is still in your head. It could come from your coworkers. It could come from past leaders. We need to figure out what that specific belief, how it's correlated to a specific backstory. Okay. Then the third B is the behavior. What's the behavior that it's causing? And this is what most people don't think about. So when somebody doesn't take action, that's a behavior, right? It's the act of not taking action. So what is the behavior that's being caused by this belief? And that's what we need to break down in order to get to the 4th B, which is the breaking. How do I break that behavior? And how do I break the belief so that I can actually move forward and build a life that I'm proud of? Even if I suck at it, even if I fall, even if I fail, even, if I fall 1,000,000 times, still being able to get back up because you realize that the belief is breakable.
Now, given the 4 B's, then how do you incorporate the 4 B's and help people today, I guess, overcome some of these issues? Because the limiting beliefs is everything. I mean, I agree with you. It's the biggest part of visualizing your success is taking action. That's the first thing you gotta do, right? It's like you gotta pick up the phone. Nobody likes to be hung up on.
Yeah.
But that's part of the business, right? You have to get in front of people. You gotta try to close. And people often talk themselves out of it. It's how do you help them overcome that with the 4 B's?
Yeah, because they don't like rejection, right? Or the feeling of failing, right? So, and when you struggle with confidence, when you struggle with self-confidence, there's a constant need for validation. And so no is very hard to hear when you're struggling with self-confidence, right? You need that validation. You pick up the phone and make a cold call and it's a no, and then they hang up and it's like, oh, right? It becomes personal, opposed to somebody that has more self-confidence. I hear no's all the time. I get doors slammed in my face all the time, and let me try again. Let me show you why this no is temporary. We're going to make it a yes here, because I don't take it personal. I'm like, I just got to work a little bit harder for them to understand why this is going to be a good fit, right? And if it's still a no, then it's like, cool, there's 1,000,000 yeses that are waiting for me. Let me go there. Let me put my energy there. And so the 4 B's is really important because it's building self-awareness first. Because, I'm sure you've met people that they'll say something or they'll do something and they have no idea that they just did that.
Yeah.
It's like, did you just hear what you said about yourself? They're like, what? No, I didn't say that. I'm like, yes, you did. Right? And oftentimes it's about us and our ability to move forward and take action. So going through this 4 B's is a really great way to just build self-awareness around some of the thoughts that you have that are still hindering you. And over time, that becomes a very empowering tool because you start to realize, like, look at all this junk I have that's getting in the way of me, like, taking action and building a life that I'm proud of. I can't tell you how many people I've sat in front of that are like, should I go get another PhD? And they already have 2. I'm like, when's another PhD
I was one of those guys. I already had, an undergrad, 2 masters. I was going to do a PhD just because, just because I could, it's like ridiculous, right? Maybe it's a way of avoiding life, it's like whatever you want to tell yourself, right? It's like you whatever it is that you believe. Meanwhile, entrepreneurship was really my calling anyway. So, but I think that the best way to often overcome some of the no's and getting the door slam in the face and all that fun stuff, which you're going to get plenty of, is just practice. Practice. When you hear enough no's, it doesn't bother you anymore, right? That's really what it comes down to.
Exactly. It's getting comfortable with it. And it's also having the realization that no does not define your worth. And I'll be honest with you. So we asked over 2,000 professionals in 2021, so a year ago, what their number one challenge was. Okay. This is professionals that were corporate and entrepreneurs that were actively working. 83% said their number one challenge was self-confidence. 83. That's a huge number. So now when somebody says no to you, it's no longer just no. It's I suck. I'm not good enough. Maybe I shouldn't be in this industry. Maybe I shouldn't be building my own business. Maybe I shouldn't be an entrepreneur because I got to know, right? Like our self-worth becomes defined by that no. And it's really important as we break down those 4 beliefs, again, building the self-awareness around our thoughts that are hindering us. And again, most of them are subconscious. So most of the time we don't realize that it's us that's getting in the way. We think it's the other person, right? We think it's the other person on the other side of the deal, or we think it's a lack of opportunity, or we think it's, a recession and inflation that's coming. Like, that's why I can't be successful. Like, there's all these things that are outside of us that we blame without realizing that, no, it's thoughts in our head that are getting in our own way.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's why that self-awareness is so important, so that you can start breaking down the beliefs. And then the next time you go to take action, that belief comes in your head. It's no longer subconscious. Now it's like, oh, I see it. I'm feeling the belief. It's happening in real life time. And that's the first step to being able to break it, is even acknowledging that it's there.
What are your thoughts around those folks that might look at someone who's very confident and, but they come off as, they think that they're just being arrogant. You know what I mean? It's almost like, I don't want to throw names here, but I'm sure there's people in our business that if I were to throw out the names, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I probably have a couple in my head right now.
But it's like in my mind, I don't think they're arrogant at all. I just think they know what they're doing, But then you have those people they're the other side of the coin there that keep throwing stones and putting comments on social media how arrogant they are, how much they dislike them. They should stop talking about money. Money is the root of all evil, all this nonsense. Where do you think that stems from?
So there's 2 sides to the coin, actually. Okay. So there's the outsider that's looking at the confident person, right? And oftentimes when you're afraid to do something, what do? You project and you knock people down, right? So if you're not confident, right? Or if deep down inside you want to do something, but you have the fear to do it, you're going to project that insecurity and that lack of self-love and that hate onto somebody else, right? Because deep down inside, you really aspire to be that way. Right? And then there's the flip side where there are people that come across what I would say externally confident, right? Like they walk into a room and maybe they have an air to them that's not super open and super kind. I actually would say that's not confidence. That's overcompensation, right? Because a confident person, they're kind, they're humble, they understand that they're going to fail a million times, but they're okay with that because they get that that's part of life. They don't think they're perfect. And despite imperfection, they still move forward because they have self-compassion and they understand that that's part of the journey, right? They don't put other people down. There's no scarcity mindset. I can walk into a room with a million female entrepreneurs and be like, there's plenty for everybody. You know what I mean? That's true confidence. When somebody walks into a room that you feel is maybe unkind or maybe they're more arrogant, that's what I call overcompensation, meaning that there's something in them that is still not fully full of self-love. And so they're showing up in a certain way that's creating a behavior that's maybe not received well from other people. But there are 2 sides to the coin.
Yeah, you know what? something you just said a second ago about the scarcity mindset. I think that that's probably one of the biggest problems that many people have. If you've read Carol Dweck, I'm sure you know Carol Dweck is, right? She talks about that. I think it's one of those innate things as animals, which we are, right? We're animals, that mechanism that's still in our reptilian brain still rules us to a high degree. And this part of it is battling that, getting rid of, or I should say getting rid of it, because it does serve a purpose, but muting it to some degree so you're not ruled by the reptilian brain, because it certainly can limit a lot of your abilities. I have to wonder if that is really one of the causes of people not really living to their true potential, right? It's listening too much or giving too much weight to the reptilian brain.
I want to take a pause from today's show to share something that I've been encountering. As I speak to many investors, there's this concern, and the concern is centered around the inflation we've been experiencing and the devaluation of our currency. Now, we've seen some of the highest inflationary periods over the past 30 years. That's up over 8%. The economists actually believe that inflation is closer to 20%. Some say it's even more. Now, what does this mean for you? Well, it means that money that is sitting in your bank account or self-directed IRA that's not invested in physical assets that hedge against inflation are losing buying power. That means that every minute, every second, that dollar is becoming less valuable. You see this every day. You see this in the groceries you buy, the gasoline you buy, everyday items that you're buying on a daily basis are becoming more and more expensive, and you're using a less powerful dollar to buy these items, meaning that dollar is losing value if it isn't put into a property that produces cash flow, just like real estate does. Now, our team here at Bulletproof Cash Flow has put together a series of weekly webinars that cover real estate investing like multifamily, net lease, and real estate development. Now, these are purely educational webinars. In these webinars, we talk about why real estate offers a powerful opportunity right now and why it makes sense to invest in these assets today. So, if you're interested in real estate or want to have the opportunity to get involved as a hedge against inflation yourself, I encourage you to go to bulletproofcashflow.com/webinars. That's bulletproofcashflow.com/webinars. Now you go there, these webinars are 45 minutes and they cover different topics every week. We go over the things you need to know to avoid some of the common pitfalls when it comes to investing while getting you prepared to invest your paper dollars into a real physical asset. Now, if you can't make the webinars, just go ahead and register and we will send you a recording that you can watch at any time. And by the way, these webinars are entirely free. There's no cost to you. This is just something that we do to educate our folks out there. So if you're enjoying this episode, please like and subscribe to Bulletproof Cash Flow. It helps the channel tremendously when you do. Now let's go ahead and get back to the show.
Yeah, and that's part of emotional intelligence is the self-management, right? Because you never get rid of all of your negative thoughts or all of your limiting beliefs. You don't get rid of them. You just learn how to manage them. You learn how to push forward despite maybe the thought that you have in your mind, because you realize that the thought is just a thought. It's nothing more than that. Like, you give power to your thought, right?
Yeah.
I can look at the sky right now and say the sky is black, but it's not as blue. But my thought is that it's black, right? So I'm deciding if I'm going to give validation and power to whether or not that's true. And we do the same thing with ourselves every single day. But it's just really understanding that, again, how do I manage the thought so it doesn't get in the way of me moving forward and taking action? And unfortunately, most people become prisoners to their thoughts, and they stay exactly where they are, and they go through their whole life not fully reaching their potential as an entrepreneur, as a mom or a dad, as a spouse. I mean, you name it. They go their whole life and they never really get to where they want to be because they let their thoughts be top of mind and prioritize them.
Yeah, it's funny. I did a video the other day talking about controlling your thoughts, controlling what goes into your mind, and really watching out for the negative self-talk, because that's the kind of thing that will ultimately kill your success. I think part of it too is that if you're using that glycogen, you're burning glycogen to think about all the things that can go wrong, all the negative things, all the things that are bad. What are you not thinking about? Like, what are you giving up all the negativity for for? Like, it could be thinking about something positive, thinking about building something new, or focusing on something you should be focusing on, as opposed to using this one thread that you have here to think about something the way that it is today. It's I think people really underestimate that.
And and I always say it takes just as much energy to play small than it does to play big.
100%.
So the amount of energy that you're putting in, like this negative thought that you're buying into, is the same amount of energy you could put into saying, that's just a thought. No, like, I'm going to take action anyways. And even if I fall, it's fine. I mean, think about scientists. Scientists fail all the time. Most of their career is failing, right? Maybe if they're lucky, they land on some research, right? Or some kind of algorithm that actually works as a scientist, right? Most of their career is like, that didn't work. Okay, that's research. Let's try something else. That didn't work. Research. Let's try something else. And I think that if we can all have that mindset a little bit more, especially with entrepreneurship, because it's a changing game every single day. Like, it doesn't matter what, like, even in my industry, right, of like training and coaching and like, now we're looking at VR, for example, because today's way of training and coaching in our business is not going to be the same in 5 years from now. So it's understanding that, like, we have to have these skills to adapt and to pivot, and that emotional intelligence to understand, like, what's the current climate and how can I still succeed when the climate is ever changing?
Yeah. Well, on that thought, social media, I think social media has really influenced people. I think it's funny, whenever I bring up social media, people don't really think how great it is all the time. I don't know why. Right. I think it's changed a lot over the past 10 years or so, certainly. But in a digital world that we live today, you already talked about VR. What would you say is that number one skill you really need to be increasingly successful, given where things are today?
So honestly, the skill that I could talk emotional intelligence, confidence. We already talked about how, like, that's very important, like, top of mind. But the other thing that I think is really important, especially for entrepreneurs, is like public speaking and like how you show up and communicate.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm sure, again, you've seen this, right? Somebody can be brilliant. They can close all day long, but they walk into a room, or they have an energy to them, or they struggle with just speaking. And that can really be a game changer, whether or not somebody moves forward with you. And so that's one thing that I really understood when COVID hit. So I'm a performer. That's my first career. So I know my strength is like, you put me on camera, you put me on stage, I'm going to crush it, because, like, that's just a thing that I've honed in, right? When I was in college, I would stay up till 2 a.m. in the practice room, in the mirror, like, understanding, like, how I stand and how I look. People make an impression with you within the 10th of a second. And I think that social media is a platform where you no longer have to be in person to see someone speaking and, like, feel their energy. You can do it via video, right? And that's why you see so many people in real estate today as well. Like, they're influencing too, right? Like, similar to yourself, you're on a podcast, you're doing videos, because you understand that you can make an impact through your presence and your energy. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs and professionals that don't understand that game. They're like, I've done all of this, but yet I still don't get exposure and I still can't be seen. It's like, because the way you're showing up is not attractive for people to be like, I want to work with her or him.
That's right. That's right. Would you say that today, in today's day and age, is it tougher for people in this current generation to build success than maybe it was, say, 50, 60, 70 years ago?
Tougher? Oh, gosh, no. I would say it's easier. Like, think about people 50, 60 years ago. They didn't have the opportunities that we had. Like, you talk about knocking on doors and shaking hands. That's what they had. Like, they really had to wake up in the morning and grind and knock on every single door and be like, here's what I have to offer, right? Today, we don't have to do that. That's still a part of it, right? That's definitely still a strategy. My team still uses that strategy. We go out and we network, we build relationships, but we also have this whole entire world online where I can literally send an email or a message from my computer anywhere in the world and land a client and see money come in, right? Wake up in the next morning and see all this money in our account. And I'm like, where did it come from? I don't know. Maybe they saw an Instagram post, or they saw something on LinkedIn, and then they decided that they wanted to buy the course, or they wanted to buy the book, or they wanted to book a training. You know what I mean? So I think it's easier today if you realize that success is available to everybody. There's no scarcity. I think the challenge that I see sometimes, especially with entrepreneurs, is they're like, there's so many people that are doing this. I'm like, listen, you really just need like 1.0% of the population to be successful. Your goal isn't everybody on the internet. You know what I mean? Your goal could be a small percentage of people that help you become a millionaire, right? Or that believe in you so much that you build success from it. And I think that sometimes people are like, I need everyone to see me. I need everything to see me. And that's just not the truth for social media. Right.
That's right. I mean, that's a whole other discussion in terms of brand building and in terms of messaging and resonating out there and finding your tribe. But you're absolutely right. I mean, I think people really do overestimate what is required to even to become a billionaire. You know, that's you don't need to have 100 million subscribers to your channel for that to happen.
Right. Well, it's the confidence thing, right? It always goes back to confidence, because when you don't have confidence, you compare.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what I mean? Like, you start to be like, well, they're doing this and they're doing that and I'm not. And then it gets in your head. And that's, again, what sabotages action moving forward.
That's right. That's right. Well, Netta, we talked about a lot of stuff here today. What sort of bulletproof advice would you have for someone that's listening right now that really is looking for some help in terms of building that confidence to take that next step in their real estate career?
I would say, just like you get a degree, you get a coach, you get a professor, and all these technical skills, if these things are getting in your way, create a strategic plan to build your confidence. Get yourself a confidence coach. Get yourself a mentor that can help you with that mindset, because that's what's going to stop you. And so again, just like we wake up in the morning and we create our meetings and what we're going to do for the week, do the same thing when it comes to building these skills that make up 75 to 80% of your success. You need a strategic plan for these human skills just as much as you need when you go to a real estate conference or you go to a business conference. It's the same thing.
Yeah, 100%. I think a lot of this stuff is really underutilized. People don't usually talk about it. They think of it as a soft skill. It's not that important. They stick to the hard technical skills. But I think that if you're able to hone that ability to speak confidently, know what you're talking about, how to present confidence, you can close a deal, for instance, which is a big part of this business, then that's how you get deals done. That's how you get deals done, 100%. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, if you want to reach out to Netta, you can reach her via her website at riseupforyou.com. Again, link will be in the description. If you really want to learn more about how to build confidence, which I think you really should, it's a real big part of this business, definitely check out the website, reach out to Netta. She would love to help you out and really help you in that realm. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll see you next episode. Take care.
You've been listening to the Bulletproof Cash Flow Show. We hope you've enjoyed the show. We know we had fun. Make sure to visit our Apple Podcast page and leave us a 5-star review. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. For real estate coaching, events, and resources, hit up bulletproofcashflow.com. Till next time.
No information in this episode should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Any investment opportunities mentioned on this show are limited to accredited or sophisticated investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure and subscription documentation and subject to all applicable laws. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice.